So I'm gonna make a quick video on how my management works on my air ride system. So if you guys didn't know, I have a manual air ride system, which basically means that it's cheap, and that's why I did it. So I'm gonna try to walk you through the wiring of my air ride setup. When I was online, it was kind of difficult to find like a easy way to wire all this stuff up myself. And this is the way I did it. So the first thing I did is ran a main power cable. You want this to be a lower gauge. I ran this all the way to the back of my car with the I think it was like a 30 amp fuse. And you want the fuse to be pretty close to the battery when you're wiring this type of stuff up. So you want the fuse to be pretty close to the battery, and the rest of the wire can be pretty long if you want it to be. So once it reaches to the back of my car, it goes into this relay, and I have these numbers right here laid out. So if you're trying to like follow along, you know what pins you need to use. These pins are pretty universal, so they're pretty much going to be the same on any relay. So from the main power source, which is your battery, you want to plug it into pin 30. Now this is my compressor right here. The way it turns on is if this whole loop is closed and grounded, and that way the relay can activate itself and send the main power from the battery all the way to the compressor. So from this ignition switch, I get a 12 volt fuse from the fuse box, and basically it turns on whenever the car ignition is turned on. So I don't want this running at all if the car is not even turned on with the key. Next it goes to a switch, which I have in my kind of near my consoles and stuff. This basically allows me to turn the compressor on and off. And lastly, it has to go through this pressure switch right here. So this little switch right here is attached to my tank, and once it reaches lower than 120 psi, then it closes this switch, allowing this whole circuit to be completed. So to go over that again, my car has to be on, my switch has to be on, and the pressure in the tank has to be below 120 psi in order for this relay to even turn on. So on pin 85, I have this whole loop right here grounded. So when this whole loop is activated, this relay will turn on and let this main power go to the compressor. Oops. So you want the compressor to be plugged in on port 87 of the relay, and then finally be grounded to like some random ground bolt or something. So that's just all the wiring for my air ride, and now I'm going to show you all the tubing and stuff and how that works. So basically this is all the plumbing done for my air ride. So just to lay off some of the things, this is a manual management system. So you have the compressor, tank, and this is where it's different from like electronically controlled, like an expensive one. I have manual valves and like a gauge to basically see the pressure on my bags. So let's start from the compressor. So remember, the only way for this thing to turn on is if the ignition is on, and my switch in the console is on, and also the tank pressure is below 120 psi. So if this thing meets all the requirements to turn on, then it will turn on and start filling up the tank. Once it reaches 150 psi, this switch will cut off and have the compressor stop running basically. Right here on my setup I have a bleed valve. It's really important to bleed your air like every week, just because it gets a lot of water from the humidity that your compressor is sucking up all the time. And you don't want water in your tank because it can go to your lines and stuff, and it can freeze your bags, and that would just suck in the winter. So from the tank, it goes to my two valves right here. So basically right here there's a T fitting that sends pressurized air to two valves right here. A lot of people call these like paddle valves or something. I have like little dongles. So right now the way I have my stuff set up is I have one valve for the front bags and one valve for the back. As some of you know, I don't have the fronts yet, so this half of this is gone on mine, but it still applies. With the back valve, once I open it up, it goes to this pressure gauge, which lets me see how much pressure is in the bags. So one thing I didn't realize is that most pressure gauges for air ride and stuff come with 2 needles and 2 inputs and 2 outputs basically. So you can have one gauge for the front and back because it can read both. So basically when I let the air in this valve, it goes through this pressure gauge, which shows me how much pressure is in this bag right here. So when I start filling it up, it goes through this and then fills the bags up in the back. Same thing with the front. If I open this up, it'll go through this gauge and pump the ones in the front. I don't have this right now, but I will eventually. Now you might be wondering what happens when you vent it out. So when you want to air out, where does all the air escape? But it comes out through the valve actually. They have a little vent, so when you push it the other way, it vents out. It vents out through your car basically, inside. And yeah, that's basically all it is for my setup. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. I know when I was first doing this stuff, it was kind of like tricky, so leave me your comments and I'll try to answer any questions you guys have. Thanks for watching.